requested particulars of the execution. Rather like an examination paper in human biology, it asked for an approximate statement of the character and amount of destruction to the soft and bony structures of the neck. A typical reply recorded bruising of neck from rope, fracture of odontoid process and right half of arch of axis. Then came a request for the length of drop as determined before the execution, and a subsequent request for the length of the drop as measured after the execution, from the level of the floor of the scaffold to the heels of the suspended culprit. The answers to these two questions differed by a neatly inked 2 or 3 inches. Nothing more. There was also a memorandum of instructions for carrying out an execution, drawn up in 1891 and amended 3 times in reaction to events that did not quite go to plan. Again, the attention to detail was irreproachable. The apparatus, meaning the drop, had to be tested a week before the hanging, first without any weight attached, then with a sandbag. As the gutta percha, or rubber, round the noose end of the execution rope hardens in cold weather, the memorandum continued, for all the world as if advising on the best outcome for a recipe, care should be taken to have it warmed and manipulated immediately before the bag is tested. On the day before the hanging, the apparatus was tested again, and the sandbag left in place overnight to take the stretch out of the rope. Then the execution shed, with its makeshift aspect and its array of basic tools, was locked. The key was kept by the prison governor. As with the appointment of hangmen who knew their job and killed with the intention to inflict a minimum of extraneous suffering, men such as the Pierpoints, whose family trade this was, so every trouble was taken to make judicial execution a series of coolly predictable processes. Some of these could not help but be dramatic. The piece of black cloth floating on the judge's wig, the chaplain reciting, "I am the resurrection and the life," on the way to the scaffold. But the rolling gravitas of ritual was, after all, what the supreme penalty required. And these rituals had God on their side, albeit a low church kind of God. What was going on was functional, formulaic, a regrettable necessity. Death for those found guilty of a capital crime was the due course of the law, a phrase so deliberately impersonal as to imply that the law had its own independent volition and was not something created by mere people. More accurately, it was created by men. Gentlemen! Not until 1919 did a sole female legislator enter the House of Commons, and in 1922 2 women were called to the English bar. I confess that at first I viewed the new step with alarm, the distinguished barrister Travers Humphreys, born 1867, would later write. He came round eventually, although he worried that women spoke too quietly in court and wished that they would stay away from criminal law. There must be so much that is repulsive to a young woman in criminal practice. Women, with their soft voices and soft bodies, were not equal with men at this time. They were so far from being equal that they could not even vote until 1918, and then only if they were aged 30 or more. Yet they were equal in this regard: they could be hanged. At the very end of 1922, a time when the question of female execution was dominant in the news and becoming almost dangerously emotive, a document was drawn up by a senior Home Office civil servant, Sir Ernley Blackwell, and sent to Sir John Anderson. Its intention, as usual with this issue, was to codify and calm. It listed the women who had been convicted of murder in England and Wales since 1890, excluding infanticide. The specific crime of a woman killing her baby within a year of birth had recently ceased to be a capital offence. There was a dim understanding of the wretchedness that might lie behind it. 23 names were typed on the document, together with a brief description of what they'd done and whether or not they had been executed for it. 9 of the women had been hanged. 6 of these had murdered other people's children. A 7th was a sadistic mother. Condemnation was therefore an easy business. Of the remaining 2, Mary Ann Ansell had poisoned her mentally incapacitated sister for £11 in life insurance, unarguably cruel again, while Emily Swan was executed alongside her